You're listening to Arizona Real Estate Matters, the podcast. I am your host, Phil Putnam with Empire Title, and our guest today is Donna Scovil. She is a realtor with Century 21 Northwest. Donna, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So in your own words, tell our listeners just a little bit about yourself.
Okay. I am 64 years old. I'm going to be celebrating my 65th birthday this year, so that's kind of huge. I have 7 children. All single births, so that was interesting, and 16 grandchildren.
16
grandchildren. My oldest granddaughters will be turning 21 this year, and my youngest grandchild is 1.
Wow, big
a
difference.
Full life.
Yeah, no, you got me beat. I have to think about 7. I think it's 7 grandkids.
Wonderful.
But I do have a great grandchild, which is that's pretty cool. Yeah. Lives in Oklahoma, so I don't get to see him that much, but it's cool. Getting older is not bad.
Yeah, not at all. And I'm very fortunate. All of my children are here, except for one. She's in Carlsbad in California, so that gives me a good break from the summers here to get over there. But I get over there quite a bit. But the rest of the kids are all here.
Carlsbad's actually, I like that.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, I like it a lot. So you are with Century 21 Northwest. Now, for anybody who's been in this business for probably the last 10 or 15 years probably doesn't even know who Century 21 is.
Right. I think people think it's like the dinosaur of real estate or something. It's like school.
Yeah. I mean, many, many years ago, now I've been doing it 42 years. You've been in this business 30 plus years. Century 21, Red Carpet Realty was another one that was big. These were either and people identified those people with their jackets. You have the gold jacket on.
My gold jacket today, especially because I thought it'd be a good topic to talk about.
Yeah.
Century 21. Why would I stay with Century 21 for 32 years?
So let's talk about that, because Century 21 is one of the old guard, Realty Executives, Century 21, Red Carpet. Some of these older companies have gone away. Some are still around, Century 21 being with them, being one of them. But we don't see as many as we used to. So why stick around with Century 21?
Well, I think part of my one reason is I don't really enjoy change, which is odd, but more so that I have looked at a lot of the other companies, and I've seen over the years so many companies come and go, and some great trends happening, and then they die. And one thing about Century 21, it's always been consistent. It being with a large corporate company like that is actually owned by Anywhere Real Estate, which also includes Coldwell Banker and Better Homes and Gardens and Sotheby's. So it's a big conglomerate, I guess, in a sense, but it has a lot to offer because it is internet, like it's all across the world. There's I actually made some notes about the number of offices they have in 86 countries they're in. So we do a lot of referral network business as well. So I can work with anybody, whether they're coming from Tokyo or, Canada and Mexico. We do a lot of referral systems. And there's something to be said about having a big company that has a brand. Mm-hmm. And I know that brand has got me a lot of business. I work specifically in certain areas. And I left for like 2 years and came back because I realized the brand was a difference. There were people that related my name, remembered me because of the brand. And so when you start to realize how important a brand is, maybe a little gold jacket, wearing a badge, just if they get that consistency of seeing that sign and they recognize you. So when I changed my marketing for a short period of time, I noticed it really affected my business. So I went back to Century 21.
People, and it's, for people who remember Century 21, they do remember it's a good brand. And branding is important because sometimes in our industry, and as well as I do, there's always somebody that knows somebody that has a friend who's a realtor, because, to be a realtor, all you have to do is go and get a license.
Well, it's not that.
Well, to be a successful realtor, but I mean, just to work as a realtor, you just go get a license, you hang it somewhere, and then you can start working in the industry. But to be successful is a different story. And
big difference. Good. I've had so many clients and so many friends and people and family that see me doing the business and I want to be a realtor. And I've watched so many of them become realtors and never ever been successful at it. Like you said, anybody can become a realtor. But even then, I mean, the testing, the schooling, it's not that easy.
Well, it's not that easy.
People
Absolutely.
have written the test like 5 times. So, I mean, there is a prerequisite to getting your license. But like you said, there's a big difference. You can get your license, but are you going to be successful in real estate? And in order to stay in real estate for 32 years is very, very rare. Most people are in and out of the business, within a couple of years.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think I used to have the chart. There's a chart they charted as far as, the people who got their real estate license, how many of them are still in the business after 2 years or 3 years or 4 years or whatever. And it dwindles down. It's a very small percentage. So yes, to have longevity in this business and be 32 years like yourself is kind of remarkable, to be honest with you. I mean, there's only a handful of people probably in this valley that have been doing it that long.
I think so.
I think we know them all.
I think we do too. You're right. Because when you said a handful, a few of them came to mind immediately. And there are just a few of us that have really made it through the market changes that we've experienced. 2004, 2005, with the big boom, and then it crashes in 2008. And so, I mean, a lot of people are there when the business is good. But do they have sustainability to keep going with those market changes, or even having the ability to change with the market? And I think a lot of times what happens is that somebody can be good in a certain market, but when that market changes, they've lost their niche. They can't really do it. So you have to be flexible. I mean, I had to learn about short sales. I had to learn about foreclosures. You have to learn about all the different trends and different things that are happening in the market. And you have to be able to do that. I mean, again, 32 years in the industry, when I first started, we used skeleton keys to open a lockbox, and we still had books in Sun City. And so having to transition into, the internet and all the social marketing, media, all of that. And, thank goodness with all my kids and grandkids and all being social media as well.
You can learn from them.
I think sometimes they learn from me, but yeah, I'm very active in all of that. But if I chose not to transition, I would have failed.
Well, I think one of the things you said is that, one of the reasons a lot of agents, when the market evolves and changes, because it's very cyclical, if they have a niche and, a lot of times they don't survive. And what's funny is that I've actually run across agents that I dealt with 20 plus years ago that all of a sudden they're gone. And then I get this phone call or an email and they're like, hey, I'm back in the business. And they left the business for a while because, they were doing well for a while and then they weren't doing so well. So they got out of it, went back into the regular workforce. And then all of a sudden decided, I want to get back into real estate. And they kept their license active and they're back, and it's like, where'd you go,
Yeah. And
so,
I guess it depends. Yeah. They have to determine whether they can do that, because there are some people that can only specialize in a certain thing. But it's so funny that you said that about getting out of the business, getting back in. My broker says to me, Donna, you come, a CEO or a company comes in. He goes, every 3 to 4 years you come in and you're like, I need to get a real job. I sit there and I think, and he goes, stop, just go out there and work. And I'm like, I know, because you do. I mean, my whole life, from the time I was 20, I owned my own company and in an import export, traveled a lot, raising babies, and then when I got into real estate, so I've never really had a real job where you went to work and you got paid at the end of the week. So everything I've ever done has been self-employed, commission-based income. So every once in a while you get kind of fearful. It's like, oh, maybe I need to go get a real job. And then I realize, I sit down and I think, okay, if I get paid this amount of money and I'm like, oh, I can't get a real job. Number one, I don't want to work for somebody that says when I have to be here or when I can take a vacation. I have a really good work-life balance. I mean, I have a large family. And so I do enjoy being with them. I was able to raise my children with real estate. Means I still got to all the football games and I still went on the class trips. I just slotted them in as an appointment and I was able to do all of that. If I had a regular job, my kids would have turned out completely different. I have 7 children that are very, very successful. They are each other's best friends and we have a very, very close family. And I honestly think if I had turnkey kids, that would never have happened.
No, and I believe that, because the one thing about real estate is that it's kind of a 24/7 job. And a lot of people say, well, it's 24/7. That's all I do is real estate is real estate is real estate. Yes and no. What's nice about it is that you can do real estate at 8:00 at night, and you can, but you could have done something with your kids, during the day, but still work, 8 o'clock at night, get some work done or whatever. It's just how, like you said, it's a light, how to do the balance.
Lifestyle.
Sure.
I remember one time teaching, I taught some classes for real estate, and somebody asked me a question. I said, real estate isn't a job. It isn't a career. It's who you become. It's who you are. It's your life. Because if you don't understand that real estate is a realtor is who you become, you'll never be successful, because you're right. I mean, I get up 5:30 every morning. I have my cup of coffee. I'm usually up before everybody else. I can knock out a whole bunch of business early in the morning. I stay up late at night. I don't know when I sleep. I cannot sleep. I feel like if I'm sleeping, I'm wasting time, because there's something that could be done. So you're right. Real estate really is, it becomes who you are. And if I get a phone call out of football, I was at everything for the kids, but there were definitely class trips where I was on the phone the whole time, walking around, or on the school bus, and the kids looking at me. But, and my son will tell you, Mom used to be late picking us up. And I'm like, yeah, I was writing a contract, baby. I'm like, I did my best. But I think that they still turned out with a better life for them than if I had not been having flexibility.
I definitely believe it, because having that flexibility allows you to be, a part of their life a lot more than if you were restrained to just, an 8 to 5 or whatever and can't leave.
Yeah.
That's definitely for sure. So I want to talk about, what's going on in the market today. We've been to the last 5 years. Yeah, probably the last 5 years. So you've got 2020, the pandemic. People thought that the sky was falling. What was it, March or April of
March 2020? I was on spring break with my grandkids at a beach house in California. We're like, I don't think we're going to make it home, Grandma. And I'm like, we'll figure it out.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, everything just kind of stopped. And, people, and as far as the business was concerned, nobody was out looking for homes, and nobody was listing. But then shortly thereafter, it's like all of a sudden things started going the other direction. So
2020 was an amazing year.
It was.
I sold a lot of
it turned out. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that the Feds, in order to keep the economy going, helped, with dropping the interest rates. So, of course, the mortgage rates dropped, and a lot of people went, oh, crap.
Very affordable.
Yeah, let's take advantage of this. So things kind of went crazy. Now, I will tell you that, you never saw anybody. And in some cases, as an agent, you did. But I'm talking about as a title company.
Right.
We never saw buyers and sellers because everything was remote. And all this other stuff. And as agents, I know some agents that were showing homes remotely. People.
Yeah, I still showed up. I was one of those people that none of it really feared me. I was still out there working. Our family, we had so many events in 2020. We were always together. It was my 60th, my daughter's 40th. We had weddings. I think I went to 3 or 4 weddings in 2020. So the whole pandemic thing wasn't something that really concerned me. And I think a lot of that had maybe to do with my faith. I really felt a lot of discernment in it. And we were still cautious, but I wasn't somebody who, was into the masking or the vaccine or anything like that. I just trusted, in the Lord to provide for my needs. And he did. It was an amazing year. I look back at 2020. It was one of my best years ever.
It's like, and it's crazy because we in the title industry also saw some great things. Our numbers were kind of amazing, and that lasted for a couple years.
Yeah, it was good.
And it's like, and there were some parts of that I think you'll have to agree that, when people are overpaying $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 for a house, that's kind of ridiculous. Yeah. But it happened. And so then, all of a sudden inflation got a little out of hand and they needed to raise the rates, and that kind of slowed things down. So it was like, so we've seen in the last 5 years a real roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
So here we are in 2025, the beginning of 2025. And, a lot of people in 2024 said, okay, 2025 is going to be way better than 2024. So far, I've noticed that it is just starting to look like it's going to be better. And which is a good thing for the market. We see a lot more homes on the market now.
There is a lot of homes on the market compared to what we've had. Our inventory is very high right now.
Do you know what it's at?
I don't have the exact number, but I'm thinking it's like in the 50,000. Like, there's a lot of homes on the market compared to what we've I mean, we got as low as one point like 5,000.
Oh, it was
crazy like that. So there is a lot of homes on the market. You can see that market has definitely changed. The turnover has definitely slowed. We are looking at, inventory lasting 60, 90 days easy, versus, back in the day was like a day.
it was
But
yeah.
think the thing is there's still a lot of fear. People are afraid to purchase because they hear some people say, oh, it's going to go recession, and other people are like, oh, it's going to be that. I have a very positive attitude with the market. We have a ton of companies coming into Arizona, huge. TSMC just did another $100 million. They were already at 60 million. We have Intel. We're becoming like the tech place here in Arizona, but they're bringing in tens of thousands of jobs with them. So the biggest thing for Arizona is we're growing, we're expanding. Glendale is huge on their entertainment district. They're putting the new Bio Resort. Like there's just amount of, and so there's a lot of things in Arizona that people want to come to. So we have a lot of visitors. They like the climate. They want to stay. So we do have a lot of people that want to buy here. The problem is the local people have really been priced out of the market. The base price being, $450, $550, depending on what city you're in. That takes a lot of people out of the market that are making $30, $40, $60, even $80,000 a year is taking them out of the market. But the problem is the misconception that people are still waiting that the interest rates are going to go back down to 2, 3, or 4%. Never going to happen.
Nope.
Even Trump said I should never have gone that low. It was way too low. It was too low to ever. And now that there's a preconceived idea that people want, or that a 6 or 7% interest rate isn't good. When I got on the market, interest rates were 12 and 14%. When we got to 6 or 7%, that was huge.
That was huge.
So,
oh, absolutely.
It was a great interest rate.
The average interest rate over the last 30 years is 7.25%.
But people hear 7%, so high. And it is high when you're paying $500,000 for a house that you paid 2 or 3 for.
Yeah, no.
The payment's high,
Well, and that's the thing is that, how do you help people navigate? Because I want to talk about, you represent buyers and sellers.
Yes.
The agents, we talked earlier a little bit about a niche, somebody, and there's some agents out there, oh, I only work with buyers. Okay, well, when it's a seller's market, you're going to, and I only work with sellers. Well, flip it around. I always, tell agents, especially new agents, consider yourself like a store. And if somebody, buyer or seller, walks into your store and you don't have any inventory on the shelves, they're going to walk out of your store.
Right.
So if you restrict yourself to one or the other, and that portion of the industry is slowed down, and you don't have the inventory to help them on both either side, so you have to make yourself available to both sides.
Right.
So,
and all price ranges too. I think it's
absolutely
interesting. You'll have people that only deal with the higher market. Well, there's times where the high market's good and the low market's good. But my thing is, if you don't have the penny candy to support the daily expenses, you're not going to sell that really expensive item either. I still work with renters. I mean, like I said, I've been top agent in my office for years and years and years. Back in the day, I mean, I was, but I still deal with, I work with and serve renters, first-time home buyers. I'm gonna help people all the way through, and all the way up to investors that are looking at multi-unit properties. So yeah, I give them the same amount of time, energy, and treatment.
And that's how you've remained in this business for 32 years.
Oh, it's about relationships.
Yep, absolutely. Have you actually sold a piece of real estate? And what I mean by is
no, people, when they talk about realtors being salespeople, I'm like, oh my, it makes me cringe, because I'm like, I'm not a salesperson. I'm a terrible salesperson. When they first came out with doing the PowerPoint, this is me, I couldn't do it. I'm not good at self-promotion at all. I'm probably way too humble for my own good, because I don't like to, I've never been somebody who promoted myself as being, I'm amazing. And I mean, people walk into these listing appointments and they got like the most amazing gear. I walk in and it's me. I've been doing this long enough. I'm here to serve you. I'm not a salesperson. I'm here to serve you. And even in my marketing material, I'm not going to go put out a recipe on the back of a postcard. I'm going to go out and I'm going to offer you, hey, this is the recently sold in your neighborhood. I'm going to provide information that is valuable to that client. And so, yeah, I serve people and I build relationships, and those relationships turn into, probably every single client I've ever had has become a relationship. every client I've ever had has been a long-term relationship. I have so many friends. And like I said, they become a friend and then they want to become a realtor. And then they realize that's really hard. It's not easy being a realtor. I mean, we can make it look glamorous. We can everything else. But you're right. It's 24/7. It's pressure, like responding quickly, especially, I mean, obviously when I got in the industry, we had pagers, okay? So then we get these cell phones and they expect you to answer the phone right away. And it was like, oh man, if you don't answer the phone, then they're on to the next one. So then we got the smartphones and you have to I put contracts together driving around in my car. I'm driving, I've got clients with me, or clients following me, showing houses while I'm popping out a contract and getting acceptance and signatures on my smartphone, when the market was that crazy. And so you have to be able to do that. But no, I definitely, those relationships are amazing. I have had people that have hunted me down 7 years later and said, hey, Donna, and I answered the phone. They're like, oh my gosh, like I have the same phone number I've had, since cell phones came out. So it's the same phone number. And that's never changed.
That's a true measure of your success. And what you do is when you get those phone calls 7, 8, 9, 10 years later from people and they remembered you because they did a study and they said the majority of the people out there after 3 months don't even remember the name of their realtor or their loan officer or something like that, and that's a shame.
That would make me so sad.
Oh, absolutely. And one of the things I take pride in again is the agents that were out of the business for a while that have come back to the business that remember who I am, or the loan officers that I haven't heard from in months. And I have buyers and sellers that say, you helped us 2-3 years ago with our transaction and we're going to do it for sale by owner now. Can you help us out? And things like that. And that tells me
you want to be remembered.
Yeah, that I did something right.
Yeah, that you did something.
And that's
you made a difference in their lives.
And that's the most important thing about what I do, in my opinion, is having that, knowing I can sleep at night, that I did the right thing. And that obviously that's exactly.
Oh, there are the times I could have sold a house just if I wanted to sell the house. I could have sold some houses. But at the same time, I mean, there's times that some client has wanted a house and I'm like, I just don't feel comfortable when I start to look at the numbers. And I'm thinking, this client might call me a year from now to want to sell their house. And I'm like, if I oversell them into a house, if I push that and they buy that house and they call me a year from now and I can't sell it because they're upside down, or I'm like, nah, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. So. No, and then that happens. It's like, sorry, you paid too much for this a year ago.
Yeah.
Like, well, wait a minute. You were a realtor. That wouldn't look really good.
That wouldn't look good at all.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about buyers right now. So, interest rates are fluctuating in the sixes, high sixes, low sixes. I mean, it's kind of been going up and down a little bit, but they've kind of stayed steady in the 6 range for the most part for the last few months. But we're seeing an increase of buyers in the market. It's like, are they just deciding, and I have my own opinion of this, are they just deciding, well, I've waited long enough, 2.5 is not coming back, 3.5 is not coming back. I doubt if 4.5 is coming back.
Right.
You may see some 5s. But I don't think we're going to see those 2s and 3s and 4s. We never did before anyways. So our buyers, because to me, real estate is not a physical thing. Some people say it's a very physical thing. Well, of course, you're buying a house, you're buying land or whatever. To me, it's a mental thing.
Very, very much so.
And so is it a change of attitude with buyers? Or do you have to sometimes change their attitude?
For our local buyers who have been sitting on the fence, I think they're coming to an acceptance. If they have been sitting on the fence for a while, our prices haven't gone down.
No.
And
some people are, and that's the other thing too, is a lot of people are waiting for that to happen.
Oh, they think we're going to crash. It may crash in some podunk town in some other state. It's not going to crash here in Phoenix, Arizona.
No.
Not going to happen.
And as a seller, why would you want prices to come down? It's like, well, I can't sell because I can't afford it over here. I need prices to come down. Well, that means your house is going to go down too.
Right.
It's like you can't have one without the other.
And that's happened even in the boom where they were paying $50,000 over on buying a house. They were also getting $50,000 more on their house. So it all worked itself out back then. But I think that the people that have been waiting have seen that prices are still going up, that interest rates are not going to go down. I think that if he thought magically on November 5th or January 20th, we were going to have this massive, half price sale on interest rates. Didn't happen.
You can't flip a switch and make it happen.
Yeah, there's a lot of work to be done before we can have any interest rate adjustment, hardly at all. So I think there's a lot of that. I think the local people have been sitting and waiting, and now they're realizing there's an acceptance there. But we still have a lot of people coming in from out of state. A lot of people. A lot of the new buyers that I have are people from out of state.
I deal with it all the time.
Yeah.
I deal with a lot of people from the West Coast, Washington, a lot of people from Washington, a lot of people from California, a few from Oregon. It used to be always the Midwest.
Right.
And we're still seeing them.
Our Chicago people.
Yeah, exactly.
Still coming,
But no, it's the West Coast because, they had such an increase in prices over there. A lot of them can go, I could sell my house here, get cash, and buy a house for cash.
Right. They're not
still.
And they don't have to deal with interest rates, and they don't have to worry about prices because we're cheaper. So those are easy sales.
Yeah.
Those buyers are easy people to work with and to sell. Past clients, who have bought and sold in the past are aware they can understand a market better. So you can work with them and explain that to them. I think that the people that that have been sitting on the fence are people that are listening to all the stuff that's out there on the media, or, it's like, we're going to crash, we're not going to crash, or it's interest rates going to do this. Like, got to stop listening to all of that. Go to your local real estate agent and get to work. Because you buy a house today, you're most likely going to have equity in your home within the next 6 months to a year or 2 years here, especially here in the Valley.
Well, two things. One is I've been asked this question for almost my whole 42 years in the industry. And it's always, how's the market? When, is it a good time to buy a home? And I'm like, yeah, when the best time to buy a home was? Yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
It was always yesterday.
Yeah.
Because the sooner you buy a home, the sooner you start building wealth over time.
Right.
This is not a sprint. It's a marathon.
Right.
And so all the people that have been waiting for rates to come down, and they haven't, have just cost themselves thousands of dollars.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And even like when the market changes like that, like I understand for your personal home, I mean, some people are looking at only being in a home for 3 to 5 years. So the market changing can make a difference to them. If you're buying your forever home, then really it doesn't matter whether the prices go up or down or anything else. I have a lot of investors that could have sold in 04 and 05 and made a killing, or again in 2020 when the prices jacked up again. I mean, they could have sold. But my clients, I sell a lot of homes to investors that hold property for that passive rental income that happens. And the people that have stayed steady for the last 30 years and 20 years that I've been selling all these homes to, they still own those same homes, and they owned them when that one house was worth $800,000 and that same house was worth $300,000, but they still own that same home. And through all of that, obviously the principal is going down if they've mortgaged it or whatever, but even if they haven't, the value is still there because they have that income that's coming in every month. And
let's give you another example. So you mentioned that you got people that they bought in 04, 05. That was before the crash.
Yeah.
And they still own their homes. Mm-hmm. So let's say they bought their house in 04, 05 and paid $350, which was, a number that is, we saw a lot of that. But then the market crashed and
it went down to 200
or 150.
Yeah.
What's that house worth now?
Well, that house was worth 5.
Because it's a marathon. And so not only did they make money, they had to weather a bit of a storm, but they had a home for 20 years and they're still going to put money in their pocket.
Right. The only way it would have hurt them if they had to sell. They had to sell. And that's why we ended up with a lot of short sales and foreclosures and things like that. Because some people, it was a bit either a business decision financially, or it was, I can't do anything else. I have to sell. I have to move, to another state. I don't have a choice. I can't hang on to this house and go buy something else.
No.
But yeah.
And so
market.
Exactly. So, for all the buyers that are out there, and you're thinking, okay, rates are going to drop, to make it more affordable, you need to call Donna. We're going to get her number. We're going to get her number and her email address and all the good stuff at the end. But the thing is you have to realize that, again, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Even if homes appreciated at 2%, which I can tell you in Arizona, that's almost never happened except for the crash.
Right.
Even if they appreciated for the next 5 years at 2%, you're still going to make 10% on your purchase over a 5-year period.
Right.
And if you bought a $350,000 home, you're going to make $35,000 over the next 5 years. So if somebody said, if you invest in this property and I'll give you $35,000 profit in 5 years, I don't care what you're buying. If that was the scenario, people would go, yeah, I'll do it. Mm-hmm. So why aren't they doing it now? You know what I mean? I mean, I understand affordability is a bit of a question.
Affordability, definitely for some people, but you know what we are seeing? We're seeing multi-generational people coming together, which is actually kind of warms my heart to start to see families living together again. So you have, kids, like young couples that have children, and now the grandparents are with them, or something like that, where families are starting to join together because of the fact that
Sure, it makes it.
maybe it's become unaffordable for one member, but you could put a couple people together. And Lennar has those Gen X homes, which are kind of cool too. It's a main home, and then it has a home attached to a home, and so you can do that. You can either have the main home as the family, and then have somebody even renting out that little house, or a grandparent or something. It's kind of neat. I do like to see families coming together.
Well, see, and that's what makes you, Donna Scovil, with Century 21 Northwest, important, because you can say to them, look, hey, Lennar's got these subdivisions with these types of homes out there, because you have your finger on the pulse of the industry and what's going on.
Like I said, I don't sleep. I am constantly trying to upgrade my knowledge and wisdom of the market, and just always be engaged.
Well, let me ask you this. Okay, so let's get away from buyers and go to sellers, because sellers need, in my opinion, as much or more education than buyers do.
Yeah.
So a lot of sellers think that, it's the 2020 market still, and you can ask more than what your house is worth and get it. That usually doesn't happen in this kind of market. We're back to a normal market, and if pricing a property is very important. So if you price it for what it's worth, you're going to get, attention. But I've noticed working the escrow desk is, we don't have a whole lot of cancellations, but when we have a cancellation, it's usually because during the home inspection, there was just way too many repairs. And, even though the seller is like, okay, I'll do all of them, or I'll do most of them and give you credit for the difference or whatever. Sometimes the deals still fall apart because people are like, well, if there's that many repairs, is there stuff we don't know about or whatever? So I ran across this article, and I've talked about this years ago, and it's come back out now. And the name of the article is Why a Pre-Listing Inspection May Be Worth It in Today's Market. So do you agree that, when somebody lists a home, that it's worth the $400 for an inspection to have a certified home inspector who would possibly be representing buyers to do the same thing, come in and do an inspection on your home and say, okay, look, these are the things that need to be addressed, and have the seller address them ahead of time? Or do you think just roll the dice and let the buyer's inspector uncover all this stuff?
Well, I'm really good at negotiating. So when an inspection does happen and a buyer does request repairs, I really, really actually enjoy the negotiating part of making that deal happen. So I've never had a transaction cancel because of inspection, because again, all of it is the skill of being able to negotiate. Like a willing buyer and a willing seller is to put that together. Now, when I got in the industry, we didn't do home inspections.
I know. The home inspections never killed a deal because they didn't exist.
And so then eventually, as it became something, inspections, they started to do inspections, and then it became like every single house has a home inspection. And you're right, it would kill deals, because you're like, and usually it was the inspector that killed the deal. Okay, not for me, and it wouldn't be the agent, because the inspector would end up talking the house down, and in their meeting afterwards, and you're like, okay, time out. You give us the facts. Let us deal with the emotional part of it, or the decision-making part of whether this is going to work or not work. Do I think a pre-home inspection is a good idea? Definitely on any house that's over probably 10 years old, for sure. It probably would save some deals, because not every agent out there is really good at negotiating, especially when it comes to repairs. Like yourself, if you're in the industry as long as we are, I mean, I know vendors, and I know what it costs. And so having, that loose toilet bowl that's on every single inspection is not a big deal. It's on every single inspection. Like there's certain things that are on every single inspection. And when you've been doing it long enough, you understand that, and you can say to them, it's okay, that's on every inspection, but we'll deal with that, But for some of the big stuff, like, yeah, you're going to have to sit there and say, like, I know as a seller, maybe you weren't aware of this, but we got to do something here. So then you have maybe 3 or 4 different ideas. And sometimes it's a price adjustment. Sometimes it's throwing money at it. Sometimes it's doing the repair ahead of time. The problem is some sellers don't have the money to do the repair. So then now what are we going to do? We're going to close without the repair, but then how are we going to get that fixed? Sometimes I have to find a vendor that's willing to do the repair and take the money out of proceeds because, like I said, the seller doesn't have the money now, but hey, when they get their proceeds, when they get their check, when they come to, Empire Title, I can have that come right off of the settlement statement. Vendor gets paid, and then we can still sell a house. So there's a lot of ways to make it work.
Yeah. And it's unfortunately, again, somebody like you can talk them off the cliff because there's a lot of buyers that see these inspections and they're like, oh my God, there's just, there's no way. And a lot of sellers are like, oh my God, I didn't realize there was that much wrong with it. Or they don't agree with a lot of the things that are wrong with it. So there's always a solution to something if you just, just take a deep breath. Let's address this,
the problem is like you said about the number of agents out there. There is a lot of agents out there that are those 1 year, 2 year, 5 year, not even, they won't make it to 5 years if they're not able to negotiate a BINSR, but that are newer agents. And you're right. Everything is, oh my gosh, this, or oh my gosh, that. Let's just say, okay, let's just look at it from a practical point of view. And when you've had experience seeing that before, you've seen it before, it's like, oh, well, this is how we handled it before. We can handle it that way again. It definitely helps out.
So what you've just said basically is, and I tell this to people all the time, what we do is not rocket science. People make it more complicated than it is.
Right.
If you just slow down and take a look at it practically and say, okay, look.
It goes back to common sense.
Exactly.
That's a new buzzword right now.
Well, we're almost out of time, but are there any areas, and where is Century 21 Northwest? I know you're in the Northwest Valley.
Actually, we have two offices. We have one in Glendale on 59th Avenue, just between Bell and Greenway. We also have an office in Tempe.
Okay.
And sometimes people will ask you, like, well, what area of the valley do you work? And it's kind of interesting. In 32 years, I don't have an area of the valley anymore because 90% of my business is really past clients referrals. Everything that I do is people that come to me. I don't do a lot of proactive marketing. And that's just because I'm not good at self-promotion. But I do, because of building the relationships, most of my business is all past clients referrals. People that have come to me. So then when that happens, that can be anywhere in the valley. And sometimes it's out of state. And so I'm helping refer them to an agent out of state as well. So I really do. I know it sounds crazy, but I cover the whole valley. So it doesn't matter if you're in Scottsdale or Mesa or Surprise or Goodyear or Buckeye or anywhere in the valley. Obviously, my home office is in Glendale. And I spent most of my life raising my kids in the Peoria, Glendale area. But I'm very familiar with the market. And the thing is one of the codes of our ethics is not to work out of your area of expertise as a realtor. So I try to make sure that even if I'm going into an area maybe that I'm not as familiar with, I go down that rabbit hole. And by the time a few hours is over, I know everything about the area, the subdivisions, the amenities, and everything so that I'm well prepared by the time that my client walks through the door.
Well, and that's what, again, your longevity of 32 years, that's why you're a good agent, is because you do prepare yourself for the areas you're not familiar with. But at the same time, if you only focused on, let's say Arrowhead or whatever, the kind of the area that you live in, well, and if somebody, Tempe is a different animal than Scottsdale, than 100%. Mesa, than Gilbert or whatever. But if all you focused on was that and that's all there was to it, well, eventually you're going to run out of homes to sell in that area, or you're going to have to refer all your business out. How successful can you be?
Yeah, you can't.
So by working the whole area, you become a more well-rounded agent, in my opinion.
Again, it becomes, it's the relationship, and like you said, it's all the same product. The product is the same. The product doesn't change. You're dealing with a home, so the product doesn't change. So just because it's in a different geographical area, why should that really change? Other than, like you said, being familiar with maybe the pricing in that area or what the turnover is in a certain subdivision. That's important, but the product doesn't change. What changes is what's important is that building that relationship, having that experience, the integrity and honesty and clear and transparency when you're working with a client of building that trust right up front. You build that rapport with them that I'm going to tell you the honest truth about everything that we're looking at here. And you may fall in love with the house and I'm okay with that. But if I find something that's of concern, I'm going to let you know. I'm not
Mhm.
going to let you just sign on the dotted line, buy that house, because I want you to call me 7 years from now,
Well, and because
continue or refer me to somebody else and
sure,
be with your house.
because if you let them buy that house, you earned a paycheck today,
Oh, yeah.
but by being honest with them, you've earned a paycheck in the future as well.
You've earned lots of
You
paychecks in the
know,
future.
exactly. So you're building a business for the long term, not just
Absolutely.
for today. And I think people appreciate that. We've become a very electronic society. Most people do their own searches on the internet ahead of time, and they've found all these homes. And I love the agents that get the phone calls and well, I found some homes. How many? Like at 12 homes. Like no, let's narrow it down a little bit. Let's cool your jets. Let's take it step by step. And I've got some agents that will only show like 4 homes a day or 5 a day.
Oh my God.
I've got some that will be like, I don't care, I'll do whatever. But you have a more somewhat educated buying base today because of the internet.
Yes.
The problem is that most of the time when somebody comes to you and says, okay, this is what I'm looking for and this is the area I'm looking for, that's not the home they buy.
100%.
9.9 times out of 10.
Ever and ever and ever. And she had to have something very special and like unique about that house. And we looked at so many houses a long time ago. And by the time we were done, that was the one thing the house didn't have. And I was like, this is crazy. But I remember one day somebody turning to me and said, when did the market change? It was one of our old school realtors that had been around forever. And she said, when did the market change, Donna, where we were the home experts and we found the home for people based on what their need was versus them telling us what houses that they wanted. And it's the internet. It's the difference of if you come to me and you give me specifically what you're looking for, I can take 20,000 listings and I can narrow it down to 5 perfect houses, 5 houses that you're going to buy one of them. And honestly, most of my business was like that. We would go out for the day. Because I chose the houses. When I chose the houses, we went out for the day, narrowed it down to maybe 4 or 5 houses. And at the end of the day, we wrote a contract. And they usually had 1 or 2 that they liked. So we wrote a contract at the end of the day. Well, then as the market changes, we now have internet and they're sending you 15, 20 houses that they want to see. And you can take an agent will take them to 15 or 20 houses. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take those 15 to 20 houses and I'm going to break them down and I'm going to put them in an order and I'm going to put in what they really want, or I'll eliminate based on, I know areas, I'm not going to change the area, but maybe this one's sitting on a really busy road. And so I'll ask them like this, hey, this one's on a really busy road. Are you okay with, oh no, I didn't know that, but I'm not going to just throw them in the car and go for a joyride. That's not going to happen. Like,
because you're not just wasting your time, you're wasting their time.
Yeah. And that actually happened. Larry Fitzgerald was, he was mentoring this player who was coming here to play for the Cardinals. And so anyway, he was staying at Larry's house. And so I'm working with him. And sure enough, he came up with this whole list of houses that he wanted to see. He chose them. One was in May, like some were they were all over the valley. So I pull up and Larry's actually in the driveway and he turns to me and he said, hey, I was going to come with you guys. But he said, I saw the list and he said, I think I'm going to wait till he narrows it down. And I'm like, right. Because now we're going all over the valley. Like we were in, Avondale and we were in Mesa and Scottsdale. And I had to laugh because honestly, it was a crazy thing, but I was letting him lead. It was a new client I had never worked with before, allowing him to lead and he was from out of state. He was from Minnesota. So he was trying to figure out, where in the valley he wanted to be. And so I just thought it was funny because Larry Fitzgerald's response was like, yeah, when you guys narrow down where you want us to look, I'll come with you.
So here's somebody who knew exactly, this is kind of how it should work. Yeah, exactly. Well, Donna, you've been such a great guest. How does buyers and sellers need to call you? If somebody is in the market as a buyer, they need your representation. If somebody wants to sell their home and they want the truth, if they want to be, get their home sold for, what it's really worth and not waste their time on an overpriced home or anything like that, I know you'll definitely do that. How does somebody get a hold of you? Phone numbers, email address, website? How do they get a hold?
All right. My phone number is probably the best. I pretty much answer every call or text. I'm always available. And if I don't answer immediately, it's usually within a few minutes. And I mean, I know agents will look at that and like, how do you like, how do you do that? I mean, I could be sitting on the beach in California with my granddaughter or, whatever I'm doing, I'm going to return the call as soon as possible. So my phone number is probably the best, 623-329-0665. So that's somewhere that you can absolutely reach me. And email. I'm at donna.azhomes@gmail. Make sure you put the dot in there because there is a donna.azhomes@gmail. When I found out,
Oh, geez.
then I was like, she's probably getting a whole lot of my emails. But anyway, it is Donna with the period, the dot, AZ as in Arizona Homes @gmail. So those are the two places you would reach me. I'm sorry, Phil, I'm not a website girl. I'm not that kind, and I wish that I was, because I believe that people can get drawn to that. I am still really old school, face to face. I love to do open houses because I love to meet people. And I know some people say, well, open houses don't sell houses, but I just love to meet people. So I like to get face to face. And
well, you like to meet people because you're in a relationship business that just happens to be real estate.
Yeah. And the more people you know, the more people that, know people who know people, and the more business you have.
When the internet, as far as associated to real estate, kind of blew up, and a lot of people embrace that, especially younger people. But I've also talked to a lot of younger people that have said, you know what, we appreciate our agent doing the hands-on and holding our hand and the more personalized as opposed to the more electronic.
You're definitely going to get more personalized with me, Phil. I don't have a team. I tried at one point in time just to have a TC kind of girl. And I don't, my hands are on all of it. If you call me and you want to go look at houses, I'm going to show you the houses. It's not going to be my buyer's agent. If you, if you want me to sell your house, I'm going to be the one negotiating that BINSR. It's not going to be another teammate that's going to negotiate that BINSR. I am 100%. It's me. It's not going to be, I'm not going to be handing you off to anybody. The only person other than me in a transaction is the title rep. And I choose really good title reps. And that's why people like yourself, Phil, who've been in the industry as long as you have, because I don't want to have to communicate, I have all this communication. I work with you, and if something comes up, we're going to deal with it, but I'm not going to call you every day. And I'm not
micromanaging is a waste of time.
At all.
It's a waste of time.
Times where deals are falling apart and my client has no clue because I am putting out those buyers on the back end. They have no idea what's going on because I'm going to make sure that they're going to close on that transaction with the least amount of inconvenience for the seller, the least amount of stress for the buyer.
I've had numerous transactions over the years where things were really ugly in the middle.
Yeah.
That we handled as a title company. We fixed it. Nobody knew about it.
Nobody knew.
And it could have cost the deal if you had somebody that was not as experienced.
Yeah.
And that's what we're supposed to do.
The only problem with that, Phil, sometimes is you make it look too easy. So when you get that check at the end of it, it's like, well, you didn't seem like you did that much. And I'm like, oh, girl, you have no idea.
And that is so true. Yes. I've had a few agents said, wow, I hardly heard from you, which is fine. Don't get me wrong. I said, well, isn't that the way it should be? You should be able to, for me, give me the contract, call me when, something is important, or, and we do communicate, don't get me wrong, but I'm not going to tell you every time I do something.
Right.
You're going to go, well, in my opinion,
an attorney that's going to bill you by the hour and call you every 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Handle this.
It's like,
we got this.
Well, do you really want to know what I'm doing every time on your transaction? It's like, no.
No need for that.
There is no need for that. You want to keep the stress level down and have them focus, buyers and sellers and agents focus on other stuff.
But that goes back to the relationship. If you built that rapport in the first place, if you have that rapport with your client, if they have that trust, they trust you, then you don't have to worry about the micromanaging part of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Donna, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Donna Scovil, Century 21 Northwest, not just a realtor extraordinaire with 32 years of success behind her. That's my opinion. Give her a call, email. We're going to be putting this in the info portion on the podcast as well. If you like our show, hit the like button and subscribe. And we got a lot of good content for you as far as real estate is concerned. Donna, thank you again so much.
Thank you, Phil. Thanks for having me.
You got it. Take care. We'll talk to you guys later.